How would you describe your style, Troy?
I call it country club lesbian.
I dress like a baby.
You look good.
If I had your hair, I'd never wear a hat. You are a handsome mofo.
Thank you.
I thought you were talking to me. Shit.
I mean, I think he's talking to both of us.
Okay, good. Well, let's just assume that. No need to clarify.
It was presumptuous of me to think that was me.
Speaking of male vanities, now maybe I got this wrong because I was kind of dozing off, but Scott Galloway has been away from Pivot for a while.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It was, some people were concerned. He came back this week, and it turns out he was off for plastic surgery.
No way.
That's awesome.
He had his.
Did he get hair?
No, I think he redid his nose, and he got rid of the bags under his eyes, and maybe put some more structure into the chin.
Does that ever work out well? I mean, at some point you should get used to your face, man, when you've been living with it for 60 years.
He described his nose as looking like a minivan.
Okay.
I like how plastic surgery has become something, I think it's actually a positive thing where everyone, like people are just open about it. It's like, yeah, I got plastic surgery. Like before there was like a deniability. One of my favorite shows in the early 1980s, before we get on this episode, was Lie Detector with F. Lee Bailey. I don't know if you know it. Like I was very young when but I loved it. They hooked them up to a lie detector. It was great drama. And they hooked up Reagan's hairstylist, I guess barber back then. You didn't have hairstylists for men, about whether he dyed his hair. Like that would have been like a real scandal back then for a president to dye his hair.
Well, we can get into this more in Good Product, but I did notice that the abundance of plastic surgery at the Montecito Country Mart.
Oh.
There's a Country Mart in Los Angeles, and there's one in Marin. You've probably been to it, Alex. It's near Larkspur, the one in Marin. It's they take shitty outdoor malls and they curate them with, stuff that you wouldn't find in the classic luxury lane. Like it's not LVMH luxury. It's more California than that, and good food. And really, there's something completely apocalyptic about it. But I can get into more of that later. We'll give everyone something to look forward to near the end of the episode.
Absolutely. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to People vs. Algorithms, show about detecting patterns in media, technology, and culture. All three of us are back together for the first time. Last week, Alex had a hard stop, and I had to travel.
Alex got seriously pissy last week.
I know. But we've made up, I think. Anyway, it's good to have you back, Alex. Welcome.
It's good to be back. I'm so
okay. Troy in the beanie. Welcome.
Hi.
You're supposed to say hello so people know your voice. I think that's how it goes.
Hi, Brian. It's good to be here. We did a nice episode last week, Alex. We didn't miss you.
Well, I will say this. Superfan Brad wrote in, and I want to just quote from it, if you don't mind. He said, "Finally, an episode with a significant percent of your thoughts and insights. Loved it. Please share more of your thinking in future episodes. Need more Brian deep cuts like this." So maybe you've been holding me back, Alex. It's unclear.
I tend to agree with that.
I think, Alex, I think we should just hang on. Just let Brian talk.
If I'm not here, then you can talk 20% of the time, Brian, which is a upgrade from.
It's true. AB also takes it. I don't know if AB is joining. He's at an affiliate marketing conference. Probably I'm surprised you're not there, Alex, but it might even be in Las Vegas, which sounds, having just come from 4 days in Las Vegas, an affiliate marketing conference, if this is in Las Vegas, as I think it is, because I know.
Imagine that, an affiliate conference in Las Vegas in the kind of remains of CES. It's like in the kind of the path of damage that CES just did. That sounds like hell.
So I did the podcast last week.
It's just the affiliate guys and AI sex toys vendors. That's all that's left.
I mean, it sounds like a party.
I mean, how many times did you see that video of the jerk off machine that
I didn't see that video.
I didn't see that, Troy. I don't know. Our looks like
my CES was very different.
Yeah, algorithms.
I had activations. I did not have that.
Do you want to keep that for? I want to hear about that on Good Product again.
I had a different kind of activation going on there. There was some crudité, but nothing that lascivious. Anyway, CES was great. We talked about it a little bit last week. I won't bore you, Alex, with all of the details.
Oh, please don't.
But privately,
we did get a nice shout out, Brian, from your friend Lachlan, the Breaker Lachlan.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
He did.
Yeah.
I like that. I know, I think Emily Sundberg, who also I will address, she objected to something from last week's episode. But, I like that bold-faced names. Emily has said, like, too many people are doing it. I tried it once. It's not for me with our party.
I'm not sure people understand what you mean by that.
Okay, so like
no
a
idea.
lot of
I'm totally
newsletters like put in this newsletter, and then they have a list in bold of all of the names. Puck does this. This isn't Lachlan.
Of the names of the people?
Of the people, right. Mm-hmm. Because, people just,
like
I saw Brian Morrissey, and I was like, boom, I'm going, and it was all the way at the bottom.
Oh,
but
I see, yeah.
I was absolutely going to be like fully engaged and, seeing how the Lachlan doesn't run ads. He should.
Yeah, you were worried that he caught you with an AI sex toy. Because that's, he's a gotcha guy.
Anyway, in CES, there was, I like the bold-faced names thing. I do think it's overdone. Status does it. A lot of like media publications do it. I think Lachlan, it makes a lot of sense for it because he's got that tabloidy sensibility, and that is a tabloid approach. But I don't know. It's kind of cool.
I get it feels a little bit like the beginning of a sitcom to me, but I get it because every other piece of media, whether it's YouTube videos or even music now, everybody tells you to just put the meat of it like right at the top, so that like you can get people hooked on.
Yeah, Politico turned 20 this week, and they started with Playbook. They started saying happy birthday to readers in there. And I had asked them, I'm like, why do you do this? Like, I don't know who these people are. And they're like, oh, there's some legislative assistant. And they're like, it does really well. It fosters some kind of like connection. And that's what all of media is trying to do.
Well, everybody's favorite topic
Brian,
is themselves.
I was in one of those curated kind of stores at the Montecito Country Mart, and they have like something I really appreciated. They have vintage OP shorts. My dad had corduroy OP shorts in every color. I used to steal them from him. I went in there. They had stacks of vintage
like
OP shorts.
5.5 inch inseam.
Short, yeah, they're short shorts, and they're thick
Magnum
cords,
PIs.
great color, little OP insignia, nice stuff. But what I noticed in this store, which was funny, a new format that I hadn't really thought about, was a Braille Playboy, which is a vintage Braille Playboy.
Those existed.
It's a good idea, right?
Oh, yeah. Well,
we used to make things in this country.
Yeah. That was right after probably ADA got passed. Okay. So one thing from I did meet, I meet a lot of Alex Eastas out in the wild. Alex, you don't know. But you're also
haters.
a divisive
the haters,
figure,
the haters and the lovers.
Is where
I
you
never
wanna
meet
be.
anyone who knows the podcast.
You wanna have some haters. I came in contact with one PVA fan, but they hate listen for you. Weirdly, I don't think.
It's great.
But I don't know why.
I totally get it.
The criticism, and this person might have been drunk, which is also a very strange thing.
That's when the truth
not
comes
drinking,
out. That's
not
when the truth
drinking
comes
at
out.
these like work events. You start to realize a lot of people are bombed. I didn't know, but I'm like, why are you talking so loud to people? And then I was like, oh, you're drunk. That's why.
That is a hack for anyone wanting to get ahead in life: is don't drink at the events. You'll always look better than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But people need social lubricant.
Sure.
Anyway, his beef. I'm going to say it was he. I'm going to gender this person. I don't think women come up and criticize about podcasts because there are better things to do. Men do. But he basically criticized you for being too consistent. So
Consistent. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you gotta come up with some curveballs.
Yeah,
I
but
guess.
if I'm guessing this person is sort of mega adjacent. He hates Alex as a liberal.
Hey,
sure.
okay.
Oh,
I didn't.
yeah.
Okay, so he was dressing it up in. Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's what you get for being a communist.
That's
Alex.
great. Yes. Sure. I'll be proven wrong by history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of things. I want to get into.
There's nothing a MAGA adjacent person hates more than a Cadillac socialist. I mean, it's the worst.
I don't. Yeah.
Cadillac.
A Cadillac
This is
socialist.
very dated, Troy.
I'm just European, by the way. I'm just like pretty like centrist.
Alex is a right wing European.
Cyprus isn't Europe. Cyprus isn't Europe, guys.
It's
Yeah, but
literally
he's
Europe.
culturally.
It's
Europe.
literally
No, it's not. It's only Europe by a sort of
It's like
quirk of history.
That's only something
else.
like a disgruntled Canadian would say. I'm sorry that everybody makes fun of your country, Troy.
They
But
don't.
Cyprus
They
is
want to
in
move
Europe.
there. They love it. Now it's warming up. The people are nice.
It's warming
They're
up.
more
Yeah, now
reasonable.
you get 3 weeks
Yeah.
of springs instead of just one.
I want to get into retro digital. We'll see if this works. But I want to cover a few like news items first, if you don't mind. I had Justin Smith from Semafor. We discussed it last week a little bit, Troy. But I had him
He's
on
doing
the
he's doing the rounds, Brian. I see him everywhere.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I got in line early. I sort of pipped Dylan Byers, which was really nice. Sorry, Dylan. You know, he waited and he was like, well, we're going to have, Justin and Ben on later this month. And I was like, no, Justin, let's just do it Friday. And so it was interesting because, I don't know if you know Alex Semafor, but
I do.
Okay. So they raised another $30 million and it was at a $330 million valuation for whatever that's worth. But what's interesting, I think, about Semafor is we're all talking about the theory of the case in media and what it is to build like one of these sustainable businesses. And where Semafor ended up, I mean, I don't think that's where they intended to go. And anytime you start a company, you go in different directions, right? Where events are a big part of their model. It's a half of their revenue. And I found it interesting to talk with Justin, largely because, this wasn't really, events were going to be a support, not the main part, at least in my initial understanding of Semafor. And events are a great hack. I mean, this was the story of my last company at Digiday. Events are a way to get in revenue ahead of the brand, really. And I think then you can double back and really build the brand to fit in that. And I think that is where Semafor is, where in some ways, and this is no knock on Semafor, it just takes time to establish yourself in any area. And they are trying to be global in all of these power niches. It is going to take time. The business is now ahead of where the brand is.
I like it. What do you really think, Brian?
What do you mean? I told you what I really think. That's what I really think.
No, that's the nice Brian. Like, what do you really think? Can they catch up with the event side of it? It's just like, come on. Remember what you wrote in the summary? Transparency. That's the only way we're going to create trust.
I'm being transparent. Like I think that I said
like
last
the old
week,
Brian. I like the mean Brian.
Okay. Well, I believe, right, that events give you, like we've talked a lot on this, you need to find some kind of hack, right? You can find a distribution hack, you can find a format hack, and you've talked about this, and I agree with it, is that you then got to double back and you got to put meat on the bones. You can't just, and events are a revenue hack, particularly if you have entree into these circles, you can call in favors and you can build an events brand. But if you're going to build a full-fledged media brand, you're going to have to be influential based on your content. Or you be an events business. That's fine. It's fine to be an events business, but like that's a different type of business than if you want to be a quote unquote real media business. Do you disagree with me?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
And I was just giving you a hard time about what you really believe. Listen, I think that those guys have done a really admirable job, even getting to, whatever the speculation is, 40 million of revenue with a little bit of
speculation.
Profit.
They told people that. I mean,
okay, great. 40 million.
2 million in EBITDA.
I think that they've proven to be able to execute on a kind of convening value proposition in a way that is really hard to do.
Or what do you really think, Troy? It's enough of this mealy mouth stuff.
Well, you know what I really think because I tell you all the time. But I think that their events, it's not like there's different kinds of events businesses, all right? There's like the kind of two-dimensional events that are like, come around and we'll add some veneer onto your ad buy. And there's events that people pay for, and there's events that like the most powerful people in the world go to, and they become really important kind of platforms for deals, for new relationships. Like they're important events, and they're typically paid events. And so I think if you can kind of reinvent Davos in Washington as Semafor, that's, hugely valuable. I do think at some point you probably want the intimacy of a paid content relationship underneath of the business. That's a real media company today, I think.
Right. And they have to get there. And, Justin spent the first half because I was going in with the events because one time when we were going on stage at a Digiday event, I was like, well, all these people are going to be listening, but like they wish they had a terminal business, and I wish I had a terminal business. And he's like, oh, these events are your terminal business. I'm like, not quite the same thing. But you do have to find a revenue source in media a lot of times these days that is, outside of selling just ads, and subscriptions take a long time. So good for them. CBS. I want to talk about CBS News a little bit. So they're trying to make, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Tony Ducapil. Like they're trying to make this CBS News host almost like a YouTube style influencer. I believe, he's like doing a lot of these, and this is a very difficult format, and I think it's impossible. I think Barry Weiss, I don't know her. Everyone says she's very talented. Okay, I agree. Let's just stipulate that. I think this is Marissa Mayer 2.0. Trying to revive a broadcast news, you're managing decline. So like, why not try these things? There's a image circulating of, Whiskey Fridays with Tony. It's completely like branded, I guess, Jack Daniels, and he's gonna, crack open a whiskey and I guess have a drink with someone, which is a nice little shtick.
That's a mock-up. I think when you work at a company that's looking at activations, the creative teams that kind of come up with stuff like that is just like never would make it to the air. I mean, I'm no fan of what they've been doing, but I just want to be careful. Just want to be factual.
Right. But I thought like Jim Vandehei had, Dylan did have Jim on Grill Room. It was a really good conversation. And Jim Vandehei he was a founder of Politico, and then he went on to found Axios. And he's a very lucid, both thinker and then actual communicator about the media business, I find. And it's because like he's a journalist, and that's refreshing to me to see journalists running these media companies versus salespeople. Nothing against that. Nothing against salespeople out there. Love you. And he made the point that changing these bureaucracies is incredibly hard, and it's almost like it's the deep state in some ways. And in journalism, it's even harder because, as Ben Smith has noted, journalists are almost working for the guild, both small g and capital G, and that they're working for their profession. And you have a very strange situation where in a lot of these media companies, the newsroom isn't even reporting to the CEO. It's very strange. These are strange businesses, and they're already challenged businesses. But the task of enacting change in any large organization is incredibly hard, and you're going to get a ton of blowback. And I thought that was a good reminder. Troy, you've been painted, at least in your career, as some kind of change agent, right? Like I feel like that one where someone called you brusque, like, I think the through line of that, outside of the brusqueness, was, that you were being brought in to Hearst to force change. I'm sure you got a lot of pushback, knocking down walls, making people go to cubicles. What did you do? Open office plan?
Yeah. I was a fan of that.
Save on real estate.
Right.
PE guys love that.
What's your question?
My question is, I want you to evaluate how hard it is to change these organizations, whether you're talking about CBS News or, say, what is happening at Wall Street Journal with Emma Tucker, who continues to make changes there. And I'm very impressed with how she's going about it.
Emma's smarter than me, for sure. So, and more kind of even-handed, but I can contrast them a little bit. First of all, I would say that Jim Vandehei and John Kelly are I think they are the clearest thinkers about this type of media. And
John Kelly, the Puck co-founder.
Yeah, I just love listening to both of them. I think that they appreciate the history and have a really good grasp on the operational complexity and, really just what's going on in the media world. So I thought that was a terrific podcast. I think that I would encourage anyone to listen to The Grill Room with Dylan and Jim, because it was terrific. It strikes me that these are very different use cases. That the Barry versus Emma use case are really different, and I'll explain why in a second. I have to admit that I, like Jim, am cheering for Barry, and I think that this is a bit of a death mission, and it's incredibly difficult. And I think that not only is she trying to accelerate the rate of change inside of that company, but it's also an ideological shift. And so she's going into the lion's den and challenging, a lot of biases and kind of not just in how the product is created and the sort of metabolism of broadcast news, but how they think about the world. And I think that's a really dangerous place to be. And I think Barry's incredible. I think that she's walked away from the Times, built a company. The Free Press has like a couple million subscribers, not free and paid, and she exited in a really great way for her and her shareholders. So I'm a big fan, and I think what she's trying to do at CBS is really difficult. Now, the difference between Barry and Emma and their situation is, Emma has all the bona fides and an English accent. She's kind of pacing the change at the Wall Street Journal. It's easy to do that because it's a subscription business and it can tolerate slow change. People aren't going to cancel their subscription. The business model will sustain, and she can kind of pick away at, changing the sort of tempo, culture, and overall kind of vibe of the newsroom. So I think that she's, against a kind of evolutionary mandate, she's doing a great job. I think that CBS has two paths. You could have just said, listen, we're the third. We can pick away at being, picking up ratings points on ABC and NBC. It doesn't really matter because our audience,
it's all going to zero.
Yeah, our audience is old and dying and the format's dying. And so we can just kind of make the money and slowly pick away at it, rationalize costs, et cetera. Or, slow and deliberate doesn't seem to be your game. She's a kind of shortest distance between 2 points kind of person. I can sympathize. That's how I approached it. I couldn't stand the agonizing pace of change where I was at Hearst. It was sort of like the line, everybody wants to go to heaven, no one wants to die. It's like, listen, this medium, which is kind of magazines, is dying. We have to change. It's not about changing, the business model. It's about changing what we make. And that was, greeted with extreme hostility. And I was an imperfect deliverer of that message. Right.
But Troy, all I could you were, I think the things that's being missed here, and I would love to hear what Brian thinks, is that you weren't going in there.
I was just kidding about that, Brad, superfan Brad.
No.
I appreciate it.
I mean, fair enough. Troy, you didn't go into Hearst trying to change an ideology for what most people see as a self-serving kind of like political movement. Like
that's why I felt like I needed to make that point, Alex. That it's not just about
Well, it's hard for me to. It's hard for me to be like a fan or rooting for a person where it's like so transparent what's happening there. This is not like we have to save CBS. This is like there's a dying asset, and it can be a mouthpiece for whatever apparatus we have put in place, and let's turn it into that.
Okay, but let's set that aside for a second, Alex.
Well,
I just want to.
I think you can easily paint that as repositioning it in the market. That's a nicer way of putting it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, right. It's a repositioning from quote unquote center left, elite serving, a kind of old media that isn't transparent enough and doesn't serve its audience to being, the opposite.
Is that true?
Is that true? But I don't know if we can litigate that right here. But what I'm seeing,
let's give it some time.
What I'm seeing underneath of it is interesting, Alex, and that is, put Tony on the road, increase the speed at which we create formats and content. Let's experiment a lot. Let's turn it into something that feels familiar to a younger audience, kind of more entrepreneurial and unpolished and more conversational.
More YouTube-y.
Is that what it feels like? I
think that's the direction.
The tone is still the same. The audience
that's the direction of travel, yes. Alex. That's the direction.
But I think the interesting question is, it's not like you do that? Is this putting a saddle on a donkey and calling it a horse? Because, ultimately CBS was called the Tiffany Network. The evening news is such an anomaly, and they're all trying to do this. I was watching Fox News, as I usually do on a Wednesday late afternoon, and they have they have their own like podcasters now on Fox News. They have this guy, Will Kane, and they have like the podcast mics on TV. It's it's a very jarring experience, at least for me.
I get that, but it to me, it feels like, I mean, if you wanted to do something like that, just get Andrew Callahan from Channel 5 and give him CBS. Like if you really wanted to do something.
Shane Smith took Andrew.
Oh yeah. The thing is that this feels like the free press, which the audience was, billionaires at cocktail hour.
That's not fair.
That's
not
fine.
fair.
They
have 1 million paying subscribers. There's only
telling it they're going to make it look young by putting podcasters on is just like already like 10 years behind this curve. Like, is this that's us then? We're the new face, the new youthful face of media. Come on.
Yeah, what I see writ large, Brian, is a really interesting experiment in change that might capsize the boat. What I see is this interesting opportunity where you have a couple million subscribers. Remember that something like broadcast news has no direct relationship with the consumer, whereas free press does, right? So if you could take that direct connection that's in your email box, that's authenticated, all of that stuff, and then somehow connect it to the authority, the legacy, the kind of media machinery of broadcast news, that's really interesting. I would be looking really hard if I was her, and I'm sure she is, at 60 Minutes, which is an incredible brand, incredible asset, looking at how we bring more talent into that fold and take their formats and evolve them for social.
Sure, yeah.
And really push on 60 Minutes.
Do to 60 Minutes what, like, Saturday Night Live's managed to do, like keep changing the cast.
Great analogy. That's a great analogy.
Andrew Schultz segment on 60 Minutes. Who says no to be Bill Simmons for a minute?
But I think I do think like the problem with that CBS News was that it was boring and stuffy. It wasn't an ideological problem. And if you see the problem as ideological, you're going to fix the ideological issues. And I don't think you're going to be focused on the right things. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking a side here. Just doesn't look particularly. What I've seen doesn't look particularly interesting.
Yeah, just to wrap this up, I think that Jim Vandehei had a really interesting point. I mean, it's a simple, but I think it is at the heart of a lot of these issues. Is knowing who you are is so important now. And a lot of, network news is the definition of generic. And like his point was generic news utilities, the age of that is simply over. And just leaning on brand recognition built up over decades or generations, you just simply can't do that anymore. It doesn't work. You need to be distinctive and essential and all the things that we talk about now. But it's really hard to do that within that format. And that's why I think it is, I don't know if you said a death mission, Troy. I mean, I think it is that. It's Marissa Mayer trying to fix Yahoo. I mean, I don't think it was, at least then, like fixable as it was. And I don't know. I think it's good to have like a unsentimental approach to it, and running up against, entrenched organizations is always difficult. And I think it's even more difficult in media. And then you layer on top the fact that you're trying to do this within a lot of like dying formats. So good luck.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the best advice she could get is make sure the boss has got your back, because there's going to be a lot of noise. Bring humility to the process in that you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and your ability to learn as a change agent and a manager is always trumped by your energy, entrepreneurial spirit, and insight. But you can learn the former, the latter is born this way. And she got that. So let's see how it goes. Let's cheer for this. Except the ideological part, which Alex doesn't like. But,
let's cheer for what?
That's fine.
I don't get it.
For someone going in and doing their best to change a stodgy old organization.
It's a very thankless job, Alex. So let's cheer for someone doing a thankless job.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm like Barry Weiss gets enough thank yous by all the people she cares about. That's fine.
Enough
She's fine.
bouquets for Barry Weiss.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all right. You get invited to all the great parties, I'm sure.
Do you?
And look, I'm rooting for her. Good for her. I would say but
you're not rooting for her at all. What are you talking about?
I mean, I don't want people to lose their jobs. I mean, I'm fine. I want something to succeed,
Yeah.
But I just don't understand the strategy. I think you take CBS News, you shrink it down to the smallest it needs to be to do the boring news that it needs to, and then you take some of the great talent out of that and you start creating new products around it. Like maybe you do that instead. Like trying to change something like that has so much like equity in whichever direction from the inside means you can kind of destroy it and make it blow up. And I think that's what's happening. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking
That's
that.
a nice point. That's a nice point. I'm going to stop trying to change you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it'll be interesting to see how they manage, and just overall, I think how institutional media manages, is everyone loves to talk, particularly in the news business, about trust. It's this like, very airy, squishy notion of trust, but it's real, and all the statistics back up that people trust individuals over institutions far more. They trust influencers more than, national news organizations with, decades of experience and all kinds of process and rigor and whatnot. There's this idea, I think, that is gaining traction, which is that establishing trust is almost impossible, and that the best thing is to be transparent with your biases, and because everyone has them. And I think that was part of my sort of trend of the year quasi prediction last year, which is that we are going to see individuals and quote unquote biased individuals, which we all are, really come into investigative reporting. I don't think that this individual part of the media ecosystem just stays on the sort of commentary and connecting the dots and analysis layer. I believe it's going to go into the meat of reporting, and it will be coming, whether it's like, Nick, there's going to be tons of Nick Shirleys out there. They're going to be going out and doing investigative reporting. Maybe the business model is actually getting those like rewards for like uncovering fraud, and people are going to come at these things with their own agendas. I mean, you mentioned, Troy, that Shane has a new friend in Andrew Callahan. What is going on there?
They're in Denmark.
Okay.
Standing in front of the Parliament building. They're tracking the Greenland transaction.
I mean, together,
okay.
Are Shane and Andrew like doing something together? Is that
Yeah. They're all over Instagram together.
So for people who don't know Andrew Callahan, how would you describe his shtick?
He's like modern Gonzo News. He does a pretty good job of getting of sort of rigor. He's like a kind of newfangled YouTube news guy, smart, does a lot of research and lets the camera roll. And so it's kind of fun to watch. He's done a lot of notable segments. Then he got canceled, unfortunately. Apparently he was not very nice with the ladies. I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh,
really?
I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
Handsy?
I didn't know that.
Okay. Don't know where to pivot from that.
Yeah.
Well, I have two things.
Moving on from Andrew Callahan.
I have a couple things that we could pivot to. One was the notion. I think this notion of retro media is really interesting, and because I went through the exercise, Brian, and I made a list of all the reasons why media is kind of retro now, and there was a lot in those.
You love lists.
Yeah.
So explain to me what do you think? Because I do think this is real, and it's like a nice like topic. But what does it mean? What does retro digital mean?
I guess it means that a lot of the attributes of media that were manifest in the media we grew up with are resurfacing today. As the big shift was obviously that, control of distribution went out the window when the internet came along and anyone could create and anybody could access your stuff. And, we've been living in that massive kind of disruptive moment for 20 years as we've tried to reorganize, and it's still playing out. By the way, I would just add that it was interesting to me. We wrote about this a little last week in the newsletter, Brian, but YouTube just beat the BBC as the most watched network in the UK, which is really pretty incredible as a testament to how important it's becoming, on television screens. But having said that, you look at all of these things that like, what's the one retro idea that stood out to me is, and I welcome it, is that the New York Magazine is doing classifieds, which means that, your friends from your kind of New York Magazine community might list, a beautiful vintage modern, chaise lounge on their classifieds that you could pick up, and that would be kind of fun. Classifieds to me work really well through a lens, through a filter, through curation. So that they were doing classifieds, remember, all newspapers had them, and when they lost them, it was a sad day. So New York Magazine's doing classifieds, kind of a retro media move, right? Even Semafor getting a $300 million valuation is like a retro media moment, right? It feels like...
Well, events are retro.
Events are kind of retro. Sponsored news segments, Jack Daniels bringing you the CBS News. That's
original.
retro, man. AB, the anonymous banker, can talk about microdramas. Those are, Back to the Future kind of thing, right? They're like soap operas, extreme, like emotional tropes. They're branded. Starbucks is doing them. KFC is doing them. They're fast and cheap. They do like 100 episodes in 2 weeks. Yet they're starting to do micropayments. Hey, that's Back to the Future. You used to buy a newspaper with the change in your pocket. Now you can buy a microdrama with a microtransaction. That's kind of cool. I like these. I like these titles of these microdramas, like My Husband Murdered Me and Then I Won the Mega Ball, or Help, My Boss Has My Nudes.
Our brains are have been completely fried by algorithms, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think that's
COVID
underlying.
and algorithms have just like we've gone insane.
I think Troy force fit the micro dramas into this, but I do think there is something here within the title of this podcast and people versus algorithms, because I mean, the digital media has gone on so long that now things can be retro because it's been so long, and it's also, I believe, a reaction to what happened in the social media era and what is now only accelerating in the AI era. For instance, I think there's a space for social networks to come back. Go figure. 7%, apparently 7% of what people see on Instagram is content from their followers. Like, there's nowhere to go to actually have a social network. This is kind of good product-y, but I think a really good social networking product is something called an Aura, not the ring Aura, but like Aura, AURA.
The frames?
It's a digital frame that you just like send photos to.
Oh, I bought them for all the old people in my life. I love them.
My mom loves this thing. So that's
everybody
good.
in my family shoots photos to my mother's Aura frame.
But do you know the reason that she uses this and that the rest of my family uses this is because they used to use Instagram. She used to log on, as she says, to Instagram to see, photos of her grandkids and now great grandkids.
Or Facebook, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And now it's all fucking shrimp Jesus.
Yeah, shrimp Jesus.
Yes.
We did
No, it's
feature
all
the
shrimp.
Aura frame as a good product on an episode long ago.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we're targeting the right age groups here. When we talk about retro media, can we talk?
Old people have a lot of spending power. Have you seen the stats? They're sitting on tons of money.
I know that's where I just got an ARP card in the mail for some fucking
You get
reason.
those at like 50.
I know. It just made me feel ways. I didn't like it. So I have a few, and I'm going to mix
What about Pete Davidson doing a video like a talk show on Netflix as a podcast? Is that
talk
a retro
shows are
moment?
back. Talk shows are back.
I mean, podcasts were talk shows. We were just using... where else? Everything's so stupid the way we talk about it. Like Rogan wasn't a talk show.
I hate everything.
No, but I'm saying maybe podcasts are becoming talk shows. Like Rogan and fucking Mark Maron, and they were doing this like 15 years ago, guys. And they were talk shows then. They're talk shows now. It's just nobody in the media took it seriously, so they didn't get to use the term talk show. And now they are, because now they're on Netflix. So now they're real TV. Well done, everyone. Well
do you
done.
want
That's
to
how we
add to
classify
the retro
things.
media theme, Alex, or do you want to just complain?
Do you want to argue against the premise? That's usually Troy's role.
I because I wasn't here for the predictions episode, I'm also mixing it with some predictions.
You should tell people how you reacted
Retro-
like a little bitch.
Retro.
Actually.
Well, I did some work. You like 24 hours before, you say, "Can we record it now?" And Troy always gets his way. Because God, you don't.
I was glad because I was going to have to send that message, and I didn't send it because I was worried about opprobrium from you. So then Troy did. I was like, "Oh, this is great. Troy can take it."
Okay, hit it, Alex.
I'm going to be quick because we have AB on the call now. Free TV, fast TV, right? People are using that stuff more and more. Apparently, like 30% of U.S. households just a few years ago, and now 45% of U.S. households.
Have you ever watched Tubi?
I have never watched.
Do you know anyone who's watched Tubi? Like Tubi, fascinates me. Maybe AB can win. Apparently, lots of people watch Tubi.
Look, I'm a person that subscribes to every single app and like and only watches YouTube. So I'm not the right person to ask, but I'm sure people watch Tubi. Pluto TV, Tubi, the Roku channel, these types of things. Anyway, let's keep moving. I'm going to keep talking about the rise of the browser. The browser is back, and part of that is AI. And part of that is just that the energy, nobody can beat the operating system in accessing the user. Like, you're not going to launch a competitor to iOS or Android or macOS or Windows. So the best thing you can do is to try to launch a browser so that you can kind of own that access into people's lives. Message groups, you were talking about social media networks. I don't know if you guys tried, but like WhatsApp has pretty complete message group community building things with groups within groups and channels and moderation and all that type of stuff. And that's very old school. That's very IRC back in the 90s, and it worked then and it's working now. And then a story that's been emerging is the rise of Reddit. I'm a big fan of Reddit. You guys keep making fun of me. Reddit overshot TikTok usage in the UK last month. I think that's important. And I think that like people are a bit tired of these feeds, and maybe culture and behaviors, ebb and flow, and people are going back to, or are finally discovering that Reddit is actually a really good product. And it's a good product because you get context, you get trusted, in quotes, context. So,
but hasn't it been spammed as the SEO people have just moved up? They're like, oh, okay, you want to send all the traffic to Reddit?
I gotta say, no,
we got tricks.
I think the experience in every other app that I've used has significantly decreased in quality. Like even the ones that I don't use regularly, like TikTok feels like QVC, Instagram feels like QVC. I mean, forget Facebook, that's gone. Twitter is just whatever the fuck Twitter's doing. Reddit remains kind of a pretty good experience because in part of the community management of its own forums and the way that they manage spam and stuff like that. There's no big spam concern that I have with my own Reddit experience.
All right, good. AB, I want to bring you in. Are you in Vegas right now?
I feel like AB is in some sort of like liminal pocket universe.
Well, I thought maybe he had been detained in Las Vegas.
He could be detained in Las Vegas.
It's his hometown.
He may not in fact be real.
Yes, I think he might be in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was only in Las Vegas. I was there for less than 24 hours, which was nice.
That's
AB,
always
are
nice.
you in the Brutalist Banker?
Yes,
mansion?
the West Village
Banker Bunker.
The podcast Echo Room.
Yes.
Okay. Any report from the affiliate summit? I mean, there must have been all kinds of characters. So it must have been like a Star Wars bar.
Yeah, I'm always surprised about how people make money. But as we think about some of these like different like Tubi or communities, we always view it from, do we use it? Is it valuable to us? I think one of the things that people are talking about in the commerce space are these like couponing and other saving communities. So it's like, I don't think we worry necessarily about using cashback and coupons, but it is something that's driving a lot of revenue for certain companies. And so like,
that's retro. I love it. Couponing, baby.
It's retro, but I think it's like a strong point in that sometimes when we hear the term community, we think, okay, it's the Andreessen Horowitz WhatsApp group with the 10 or 100 people that matter in Silicon Valley. But I think in media, some of these trends, it's not interesting. Like, I don't think we're going to be a part of a coupon community, but they're really valuable and they're growing. And basically people are using them in two different ways. So the people that own them and actively manage it and things like that. But the other part is the people that are trying to influence and get their links into them and things like that. So yeah, I was surprised.
Wait, is it a big business to like own like a coupon community?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people post, why don't I do this?
All right, Brian, that could be the next
Pivot
webinar.
is on. Pivot
Yes.
is on. I am pivoting to coupons. It's John Amato who like Valpak. Like Valpak, great business. I want a Valpak type business.
Yeah. I mean, as you talk about retro media, it's like getting back to the basics.
Does John know about coupon communities? If he doesn't, AB, that's a perfect banker
Yeah,
entree.
I agree.
Give him a
Yeah.
call. If you don't call him, I'm calling him.
I'm sure you will. But like, as we talk about retro media, it's like just getting back to ad formats that work. Like that's, I mean, yes, the Jack Daniels thing in the CBS newsroom is a little bit wonky, but I think that advertisers have always played a critical role in powering media. And so there have been weird evolutions of content, especially with organic traffic before it's now getting cut back where people have tried to make money in other ways. But getting back to in-person events and convening and charging for that, doing better brand placement and brought to you by. It's like how these companies are not going to compete with Google and Meta selling ads programmatically. So the only thing they can do is more monetize the physical component.
You got to be thinking, it's like podcasting advertising has been pretty retro up to now. Just having the host read out the brand and having a affiliate code, that feels like, early 50s kind of soap opera shit, right? And they were
newsletters.
Newsletters.
Newsletters are total retro. This was pamphleteering was going on a long time ago. And newsletters were always, in financial, they were really Grant's Interest Rate Observer. Newsletters were a nice business, and it's another retro format that's come back.
Isn't it ironic that while every kind of technology ad and technology company is pitching us a future that does not exist and might not exist for a while, the amount of ads that I see here, and I keep seeing everybody's using agents, right? So here's what you need to manage your agents. Nobody's fucking using agents. I don't know. And meanwhile,
you should have come to Las Vegas and gone to my panel about agentic advertising.
Wow. I think we're in a world right now where people
are actually,
most people are actually kind of retreating back to things that worked. And we're trying to get pitched all these new things that actually don't work yet, which is interesting. I don't know if there's something there.
But is that partially just the appetite for risk in this area is just far lower, I think, now. And I think, in some ways that leads to curtailed ambitions. I like Semafor for it has a big ambition. It's not there. That's why I say when they say that their competitors are like the FT and the Economist, it's not really. Not now, but I get it. You have to say that from a brand perspective. But yeah, I don't know. I think in some ways it's...
I wanted to hear AB's take on that deal.
Well, I wanted AB, did you finish your affiliate summit take? Did you see the AI devices?
What's the weirdest thing you saw there?
I didn't see anything weird. I think my last take is the platforms play such a significant role. There's a lot of talk about Amazon changing reporting, and that can move a whole industry. So I think it's scary in a lot of places we play in media. It's really dependent on a couple of partners and how they decide. And I don't think the interests of Amazon and a lot of this ecosystem of commerce and things like that are not completely aligned. And Amazon doesn't really care because they know they're going to get the traffic anyway. And so it's pretty wild as a company in the space, maybe driving traffic to Amazon for affiliate, that you could wake up one day and your core product doesn't work because they don't offer you the data feed. So that's top of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. That's this. You never get out of being, at least downstream of some kind of massive choke point.
Yeah. You also had a take on microdramas, didn't you, AB?
Yeah. Well, how much have you guys talked about them already or not?
Oh, we just went past them.
Yeah,
really quickly.
I think glazed. Were you going to say glazed?
Yeah,
hot word.
Troy was glazing them, but
they're glazing affiliate marketers.
Yeah, the first person that brought him up to me was this really well-regarded documentary producer, and he brought it up in the context of the traditional premium IP model is completely broken after COVID. He's I would have never thought about exploring the space of microdramas, but obviously the production budgets are significantly smaller than what a Hollywood movie would be. But I think as we get into this new phase of people's limited attention span, and yet you guys mentioned, I don't know how much people know about the microdramas, but basically you're watching a couple minutes a day and then paying for the next episode the next day. And so that's why they have these crazy
and
titles.
I'm sorry, just to jump in, super popular in China. There's a lot of things that are super popular in Asian markets that do not translate to the US and European markets.
But those apps do chart here.
Okay.
And there's there's platforms today popping up to facilitate this micro payment action, but there's these funny quirks. It's like soap operas. So they have a lot of the same actors, and you guys mentioned the hyperbolic titles. It's meant to it's going after a segment of women, and it's dramatic. And so they show up every day and watch their couple minutes. Obviously brands are getting into it here because I think it's a hot topic, but over time, I think it's a place where you'll see some of the larger studios start to build out teams and create real IP. Not super expensive, but you'll actually see more talent flow into it because it's a way to tell a story over time, monetize it. Even though it might be 50 cents or $1, the cumulative effect over a season, you actually might make more than a subscription bundle, and you have a captive audience, and you can move them from one series to the next. You have similar characters and things like that. So it's like what's funny is that there's actually a lot of companies from Asia filming in the US. And I think a lot of that production talent is then morphing its way into more English content.
But is there, I mean, this is a different type of IP, right? Because this seems like disposable media. Like it's very thin and
Guys,
like you win on the economics.
The way to see this is, and I have a hypothesis on how this thing is working. The model is very much similar to those free online gaming models, right? Like, do you think about Monopoly Go every day? The video game on your phone, Monopoly Go. Do you think about it every day? Do we talk about it like Semafor? We don't, but it closes $3 billion a year. Okay. And that is on the backs of 90 people experiencing it for free, which you can with a lot of these micro dramas, right? If you wait long enough, the next episode will pop up for free, right? And then 15% of like people who spent a little bit on it, and then 5% of whales. And if you can get a business like that, you're not going to have much, if any, cultural impact. I mean, you might, I think in the case of Pokemon Go or something like that, they might kind of transcend that. But it's essentially like a casino model where you're making a ton of money off people who get completely, of the small number of people who get completely addicted to whatever content you have. So you need to output a lot of content. You're doing a lot of A/B testing, and it's exactly that same model, but now done with media.
And your model added up to 110%, which is a great business.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
It sounds kind of gross,
90?
though.
Like 80, 15, 5. Sorry, that's the
But it sounds kind of gross. I mean, it's like,
I think
it's pure distraction.
That's our new company, Alex, 110%.
Here's the nuance is like, as media companies, you're basically figuring out how to navigate like how am I going to pay for consumer attention, right? So Netflix can pay $100 million for a couple hours of content, or they can pay Pete Davidson an ad split and have the same sort of audience. And so, yes, they need some of those tentpole shows, but more and more, I think their goal is to figure out ways to get people to stick to the platform and then monetize that attention. So microdramas is just another way of like, it's not premium IP, but it's a way of a media company that does production to produce something, pair it with advertisers, and get people to watch it. So, and they can do it so quickly. Yeah.
They own the distribution because once you download the app, right, you kind of own the distribution. You're not running through YouTube or whoever needs to do that, right? So you own the entire stack. Yeah. I've got a hard stop. I'm going to go.
All right, we'll get on to a good product. But thank you
Peace.
for sticking around as long as you did, Alex.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
Okay, this doesn't sound very inspiring to me, the micro dramas, I have to admit, but I'm sure it'll be a massive market. It reminds me of Vacation when Cousin Eddie said, I don't know why they call it Hamburger Helper. It does just fine on its own. Let's get to good product.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm in California. I used to live here. I'm in Southern California, north of Los Angeles. I was reminded yesterday that California is an extremely good product. And, the billionaires that are complaining endlessly that on the All In podcast should leave, actually, if they, and hopefully the billionaire tax grab evolves so the legislation is, if it's going to go through, is workable, because there's a lot of liquidity problems around it when someone doesn't have actual liquid wealth.
Just tax the loans on assets.
That's fine,
themselves.
totally. Yeah. But I was driving down the coast around Santa Barbara, Montecito, Ventura yesterday, and then up into the mountains. It's intensely beautiful. The food is amazing and fresh, and they care about it. The bakeries are better. I don't know why. The bakeries are good. They're better. And, the weather is incredible. Like, I can't seem to convince my partner, Jillian, that Miami's a good place to hang out. And you know her, Brian. She's a great person.
She's not a Miami. I'm not a Miami person, but she's definitely.
But
not
the weather here are like cold nights, gentle, warm days, piercing winter sunlight. It's beautiful. Mountain hikes, and people don't seem super agitated that Minneapolis is under siege. They're just living, California living. And Scott can get his plastic surgery here in Los Angeles. And, you don't have to go to Miami. So it's really nice being here. And I also got to see one of my favorite people in Ojai, Amanda Hesser. And
Food
she's
52 co-founder.
Yeah, she's been writing a lot about this home project she's working on. So I got to see her incredible new home. And I bumped into her.
Did she talk about the end of Food 52?
Well, I think that's
You want to keep it private? Okay.
Yeah, it's a private conversation. But
fine.
I was at the Montecito Country Mart, which is really a phenomenon. I encourage you to go there because it's wonderful and weird. And I think when every need in your life is met, you go to Montecito Country Mart. And so it's a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of dogs, a lot of good food, a lot of heavily curated retail. And I met the owner. I ham-fistedly told him that it reminded me of AI because this is what the rich people will do when they don't work anymore. They'll come to his Country Mart, and he didn't understand what I was saying, which is not new for me. Anyway, the other thing I saw there, which I thought was very cool in California, was a purple Tesla Y, completely rebranded as a Mustang. So they put Ford where it said Tesla. They put the horse on the front, on the grill. They changed all the emblems on the car. And I thought that was funny. In some AI future, all you have to do is seek out the best, barbecue duck confit with garlic aioli and chicken piccata. So good, man. I thought that I was going to buy that Braille Playboy. I thought that was a funny format concept. I didn't. Instead, we bought some vintage OP shorts.
Oh, that was a good purchase.
Yeah, California, it's like right now all the cactuses are blooming, and I'm staying at a turtle conservancy. So there's like huge tortoises like out my front door, and that's cool.
Turtles are fun. They live a long time. That's great. There was something one last thing I just wanted to add for the retro thing, and maybe it's a good product, we'll just like shoehorn it in, is Gourmet Magazine has relaunched as a newsletter. A former colleague of mine, Kel Weissman, is involved in this project. So we're, bringing it back. Gourmet shuttered in 2009 in the financial crisis, and they are reviving it as a worker-owned co-op. It will be a twice-a-week newsletter, half culture stories, half recipes, all fun and games is how they put it. And they're going to be sharing some of their profits with contributors, and I like it. It's, I'm in favor of these worker cooperatives. Like, why not? Let's give it a try.
So they basically just figured out that Condé forgot to register the IP, right, and just picked it up. All these media brands have so many things just sitting on the shelf that have like domain names and all this awesome content. If this sort of works out, it'd be fun to see more of the media companies, because what are they going to do with these brands? They're not going to sell them. So it could be a fun model to where they hand them out to legitimate writers and teams to actually try to turn them back on.
People have been trying to resuscitate the glory days of Ruth Reichel at Gourmet for a long time.
Yeah.
The surprising thing is I'm assuming to avoid any litigation, they executed the logo in a way that was basically the opposite of the Gourmet logo. Have you seen it?
Yeah, the logo's a little crazy.
Yeah. So it's sort of like we're called Gourmet, but we're not that gourmet.
It was designed by someone who is an avant-garde trombonist. So,
yeah. We're back, Brian. It's a great podcast.
All right. We're back. Any last thoughts, AB?
California has, Troy checked all the boxes, but it has some good rituals too. Like the Sunday car. Yeah, like every town you go to in California always has the Sunday car meetup. Because it's like the cool thing about the West Coast is you get up earlier. So like I'm sure Montecito has it. They always have this like cars and donuts thing. So every town you go to,
that's so great. I got up at 5 today, and
what is it? Cars and donuts? What, you just drive to get donuts? What is that?
No, people that own their nice cars come and park them in the parking lot by the donut shop, and like it's organized. So in each town, but like Rancho Santa Fe has like an awesome one, and so yeah, there are these like fun rituals that just happen to exist in California.
That's cool. Can I drive my Altima there, or is that not welcome?
No,
Altima, no.
That's it for this episode of People vs. Algorithms, where each week we uncover patterns shaping media, culture, and technology. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Vanya Arsenov. She always makes us a little clearer and more understandable, and we appreciate her very, very much. If you're enjoying these conversations, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps us get the word out and keeps our community growing. Remember, you can find People vs. Algorithms on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, guys, let's leave it there. I'm going to wrap it up.